So my name is Lyle Mailman. I've been running the Beaver Bank Community Watch Facebook page for 6 years now. And I look forward to joining the community association, the Beaver Bank Community Awareness Association this coming year. I think I'm in a place where I'll be able to do that. The bus transit issue with them cutting the service kind of flew under my radar, and for that, I apologize. Why now? Why am I stepping up? Why am I buying signs? Why am I having a meeting? Because I can say that I tried. So, we may have a sentiment that it's too little too late, but if we have people, faces, present, to put the pressure on, to share the message, I guess it takes a little bit of faith, and that's something that I've found. And I think I have pretty good faith in Beaver Bank. And through the things that I show and share on the Community Watch page, I hope that shows that I care. So, I've been doing some light reading. I'm sure many of you have seen the Moving Forward Together plan. I went down to City Hall to see if I could get a copy. They were going to charge me 25 cents a page for a 145-page document. So, yeah, everything's online now, which necessarily isn't a good thing, because I think we're doing a lot with Halifax with heads and not hearts. If you want to write me an email story, beaverbanktransit@gmail.com, or my personal email if you want to discuss things. On Facebook, we have the Beaver Bank Community Watch, and as well, there's another group. They have a page, Beaver Bank Transit, that in no way, shape, or form am I moving past any of the people that have already fought this fight. I understand and I acknowledge you've been in the trenches for this since 2015, when the Moving Forward Together plan was first introduced. So, I want, and I hope, for a collaborative effort that we can do something about this, which I think we can. So our Deputy Mayor, Lisa Blackburn, our councillor, this is her copy that she brought to me today. She's emceeing a Cobequid Health event, and she said, if I have a question, I can text her right away, and she'll be able to respond to any questions. We have her cards here. And this is the letter that she sent me that is important. So Lisa says, hi Lyle, thank you so much, and I'll get you a hard copy of the Moving Forward Together plan. Please make this available to all at the meeting. Last week, some transformational change came to transit service in Beaver Bank. You don't have to type this, we'll copy and paste. Okay, but I am disappointed that for residents in North Beaver Bank, the Moving Forward Together plan will be moving forward without them. I want you to understand how we got to this point and what work has been done to help residents in North Beaver Bank who rely on transit. After a month after I was elected to office, the Moving Forward Together plan was passed by council. By that time, the routes had already been determined and the public consultation complete. I was not happy with the cancellation of the North Beaver Bank route. It did not buy the passenger numbers used to justify the cancellation. I have those numbers that will be coming up. In my mind, they were too old and didn't accurately reflect the number of folks actually taking the bus. I asked that a new count be done in early 2017, but the numbers were still below the threshold needed to maintain the service. In August 2018, I asked for a report, the staff for a report on the possibility of keeping bus service during morning and afternoon peak hours. That suggestion was voted down by both the Transportation Standing Committee and City Council as a whole in January of this year. That's the link for that report that she requested. That is also in the slideshow as we move forward. The changes coming now are actually not supposed to happen for another year, but upgrades to transit software meant it could be fast-tracked 6 months early. We're supposed to have the service for another 6 months. Since then, I've met with concerned community members to see what alternatives would work. I've met or spoken directly with 3 of the community transit service providers in the province: Musco Rider, East Hants Rider, and West Hants Transit. They all require permission from the Provincial Utility and Review Board to expand their service area, and none were interested in expansion at this time. I also studied a pilot project being conducted in Cape Breton. Right now, that uses local taxi services to provide transit options in rural communities. Some people have written, you can't get a taxi in North Beaver Bank. While great in theory, it requires grants from the municipality be given to taxi drivers. Under the Halifax Charter, we are not permitted to do that. Changes to the Charter can only be made by the provincial government. The folks from Ivy Meadows facility do have a bus for residents, but was not interested in expanding the service. This was a thought 3 years ago that, I'll interject a little bit. 3 years ago, there was a provincial transit grant that Ivy Meadows, we thought, hey, you could apply for that. You'll get a new bus, and you'll run the bus service from here to Kinsac to Ivy Meadows in North Beaver Bank. Ivy Meadows staff are trained in human services. They are not trained to be transit operators. It's a reality. So the human resources, the liability, the insurance, the Motor Vehicle Act, the Occupational Health and Safety Act, the Labor Code, all these things. How are we going to find a community provider? So anyway, that's Ivy Meadows. Last week, the province announced a rural rideshare field test that uses ride sharing to help with public transportation in rural areas. There's a link. This all will be shareable and usable on, well, actually, if you go to Lisa Blackburn's pages, she has this posted as well, but I'll try and get it all in one spot. I've written to the minister asking that North Beaver Bank be considered for the pilot project for the ride-sharing program. But none of this means anything to a resident who has taken the bus for 30 years and come Monday will have nothing. To those people, I am very sorry. If I had the ability to demand the route be maintained, it would have been done long ago, but sadly my powers are limited. But do know this, I am not done fighting for some kind of service for North Beaver Bank. It may mean going back to our roots in the days of the Beaver Bank Bullet, but will take a community effort to do so. I will work with any group to support such an initiative. I've also suggested residents look into halifaxridematch.ca, a carpooling register that could help residents looking for rides. Everything's online now, right? For the majority of Beaver Bank, these transit changes will bring a level of service unheard of in our history. It's my hope that express bus service and more consistent / expanded schedule will entice residents to take the bus. For any residents who want to discuss further, please send me an email and we can go grab a coffee. Thank you, Lisa Blackburn, Deputy Mayor. And there's your contact information. Again, we have cards. We have a videographer taking some video. We have CTV here. I think we'll have a good capture of the meeting with the minutes and the information. So even after this meeting, we'll do a debrief. And for people that want to be part of that, we'll have a focused approach to going to the City Hall for the Transportation Standing Committee. So let's see what we can organize and rally, what approach we can take. But first, what do we do? Nothing. A. Anybody? Hands up for A? No. Okay. B. Go to the Transportation Standing Committee meeting Thursday, December 12th, 1 p.m. at City Hall. Or C. Community Transit. I think I'll come back to that question after we go through the slides. So the urban transit service boundary. This was compiled by a computer with GPS and all kinds of information from geographical data, and also the Halifax water service boundary. And as you look up to the top of the map here, that's Tucker Lake. So just because water goes to Tucker Lake, guess what? I'm kind of getting the feeling that we should feel lucky the bus is turning around at Kinsac. As I read through the report, that's what some things sort of alluded to, which was quite shocking. Because I do recall, I don't know, several years ago when we built this community center, the water didn't come up to here and the place burned down. Something good that came from that, if there could be something good, we have this beautiful building and hundreds of volunteer hours to make it happen. The Beaver Bank Children's Learning Center, this was their home. This is where they operated, and it burned to the ground. Ivy Meadows, wonder where that relationship comes from? From that very incident. Beaver Bank Children's Learning Center started operating out of a room at Ivy Meadows Continuing Care Facility. And to this day, well, till November 25th, they had a bi-weekly visit to the seniors facility, a relationship that stood through all those years. When did the center burn down?
2009, 2010.
2010.
Reopened in 2012.
That's right, just after I got married here. That's right too. Yeah. So anyway, that's another story. And yeah, so we have the urban transit boundary, which used many criteria, and that's what they're sticking with. Because we hear a lot of moving forward together and the city center plan and the municipal planning strategy and all the, if you watch Eastlink Channel 10 and you find it entertaining, these are the things you hear about all the time. So it's about getting people around the city core. So who's left struggling? All of us out here in Beaver Bank trying to find some services. So yeah, community transit again, who will operate? So there is a rural transit funding program. So this is from the Moving Forward Together plan. Recognizing that the Halifax Transit service model may not be the most appropriate service in rural communities, Regional Council has approved the Rural Transit Funding Program, which provides funding support to community organizations offering transit services to residents. Approved in 2014 as of December 2015, 2 rural transit service providers receive funding through this program. So there's the municipal one and there's the provincial one. This gives all the criteria and the eligibility. You can apply if you're an incorporated nonprofit, municipalities for underserviced areas, a public service transit provider owned by a municipality, corporate associations, union of... So, yeah, they have applications for grants online for a provincial grant. So, I guess they're saying they're going to put it back on us. They're going to buy us a bus to drive between here and Ivy Meadows. Doesn't really make sense. When Metro Transit has the manpower, has the infrastructure, has the amazing computer software, human resources, all the licensing, and all the good people that operate the service. So, a lot of people have probably seen the data. So from the Moving Forward Together plan, and down the bottom, Route 400, this is from the data that probably most of you were a part of, from the surveys and things that they collected back in 2015. So Route 400, residents displeased with the proposed discontinuation of service between Beaver Bank Villa and Kinsac Road along Beaver Bank Road. Some more data, 75, I'm sorry, this is a little smaller, 75 to 100 comments and a petition with 221 signatures. Do not shorten this route. Access to Beaver Bank Villa is important. The proposed routing in the revised plan is the same proposed routing in the draft plan. The Route 400 would turn around at Kinsac Road. The land uses adjacent to this segment of the route are rural in character and low density and experiencing very low ridership. In fall 2015, this route segment saw approximately 12 boardings per day and operated at a cost of approximately $66.32. Reducing low ridership services, also part of this 2015 plan. Fourth bullet down, Beaver Bank Road north of Kinsac Road, currently serviced by Route 400. So this is reducing low ridership services. In addition to reducing service levels on low ridership routes, this plan proposes to eliminate existing underperforming routes or segments and outlines the removal of service on the routes. And so, yeah, we're on that list. So remember 6632. Round trips, distance 14 kilometers, trips provided 12, 6632 for Route 400. Route 401, Lakeview Shopping Center to Seaforth Back Road, 20 kilometers, 6 trips per day, 8120. If you look at the maps and the arrow, they have a bus. 6 trips a day, 3 early in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. Now from their structure, you had your bus routes in a community, and then you have an express route that runs linearly into the city core. There is a rural route series. I think it's the 400 series. Yeah, they're called the 400 series of these rural routes. And so Preston, Porters Lake, and Seaforth get it. And so an action item is to check with District 2 Councillor Preston, Chesapeake, Eastern Shore. I think it's David Hensby. Because they've done this fight. That's why they got 6 routes, 6 trips a day, peak hours. So yeah, we got to figure out why that happened. What can we do? So again, this is the 2015 Moving Forward Together plan. So here's their schedule. The back road, Seaforth back road and Highway 207. Actually, I think, is it 4 through the morning? Yeah, 5:30, 5:20, 7:20, 9:14, 11:05, and then back the other way. So they have service, but they were included in all the conversations of routes as North Beaver Bank. They're all right there with us, but they do have a route. So we had to talk to them, see how they made it happen. So from Lisa's letter and the staff report she requested in 2018 that she spoke of. So this here is the preamble. The mayor signs off on it. It's the legislative authority. So oversight and input in the transit strategic plan and direction. The Transportation Standing Committee shall promote and enable positive communication between communities, ridership, and the council and transit services to enable support the regional transit service to communities. Recommendation. The Transportation Standing Committee recommends that Regional Council direct staff to continue the implementation of Route 89 and Route 189 as approved in the Moving Forward Together plan. Well, that's what they signed off on. Talks about the background, the transit service to North Beaver Bank, discussions, community engagement. This is important to read. Transportation Standing Committee meetings are open to public attendance. A live webcast is provided of the meeting, and members of the public are invited to address the committee for up to 5 minutes at the end of each meeting during the public participation portion of the meeting. The agenda, reports, video, and minutes of the Transportation Standing Committee are posted on halifax.ca. Everything's online. So this is the meeting that we gotta try and go to next week to let them know taking the bus away was not okay. And we have to have good representation of Beaver Bank. Is it too little, too late? We don't know until we try, until we have people willing to stand up and speak for up to 5 minutes. After this meeting and I collect information, I will do a presentation there. There's a process. So from this report, they do all the data, they collect the round trips and the numbers, they map out the plans for Route 189 and 89. This is an interesting thing. Monarch Elementary the community had to fight to get Metro Transit to go to Monarch Elementary. In this, they said, we're not going into Woodbine anymore. But rightfully so, finally, I believe an email was sent, and now Woodbine students are being serviced by stock transportation, not by Metro Transit. That sound right? So changes are being made, things are being done, and that's from November 25th. So it gives us all the data, round trip boardings, all the numbers. moving forward together plan. And what I wanted to come down to was these. These were the options that were presented. And this is the one that was recommended by staff. Option 1. Discontinue Route 400. Introduce local Route 89 as planned. Introduce the Express Route 189 as planned. Reasons being, offers a higher quality of service for the majority of existing riders, offers opportunity to increase ridership, more local trips, a wider, making transit a more viable mode for a wider population of South Beaver Bank. Now we have a divisible line, North and South Beaver Bank. And has great potential to benefit people who are not currently using Route 400. Negative impact due to permanent loss of service north of Beaver Bank, Kinsac Community Centre. Comes up with the costs in the trip per day, $880,000 per year on 35 per weekday trip. Option 2, retain Route 400. Retain planned express trips as per the moving forward plan. I don't know, this number's lower than that number, but the weekday trip is higher than that week. I don't know how that works out. But reasons being low ridership of North Kinsac is significantly below the transit ridership guidelines, lacks improvement in quality, and supports existing ridership but offers no potential for growth or potential to increase quality of service. Staff do not recommend implementing this plan. But I don't get it. It's less than that one. Anyway, it might be an action item to figure these options out. So option 3, extend all planned Route 189 Beaver Bank Express trips to Ivy Meadows. Discontinue the 400. Introduce the express service, this one here, $1 million. Option 4, extend some trips. So option 3 was having 12 trips. Option 4 was retaining 6 trips at peak hours, $950,000. A lot of this stuff is like, we have this plan, but none of these suggestions fit this plan. It's the largest employer north of Beaver Bank. We have 51 tax-paying residents up there. Some of the most vulnerable people in our society. That might have to get some amendments written. Introduce a branch on the new Route 89, no express route. So this is kind of maintaining the service and gives another number. So we have to put that on the action items, is to take a closer look at these. Really, is it up to a community volunteer to figure out what's going to work? No. As a community member, you just want to try and get the bus back? Yeah, you guys figure it out. We got to let them know that we want to figure it out. Process for the Transportation Standing Committee. You had to make some phone calls and get in touch with the legislative assistant, Judith Nagithe. And so the Transportation Standing Committee is December 12th, 2019 at 1 p.m. You will need to submit a formal request to present. This will be reviewed and approved by the Agenda Review Committee, a committee for the committee. Typically, but not necessarily, presentations include a PowerPoint presentation. I think I'll be able to do that. A formal request to present should be made as follows: email to her, email, fax, municipal clerk. And there's the email, fax, phone numbers. So if somebody wants to make a presentation as well, here's the process. I'll be able to help you through that. I hope that there's more than just me. The communication should be brief and set out the following: you name, organizations, persons presenting, an outline, the outcome you sought by the presentation, if there is an ask, Yeah, so you gotta provide this information. The review committee could approve or deny the request to present, or refer the request to another committee. There's a decision made, hey, they're gonna let me know. So I gotta get this done up to submit tomorrow or by Friday, so, yeah. Alternatively, if you're not going to do a formal presentation, like with a slideshow and that kind of thing, this is the other good option, that we need bodies and people there. Because during the public participation segment of the meeting, time and date, all you need to do is attend and speak when members of the public are invited to come up and do so. You can speak to the standing committee for 5 minutes on any matter within the mandate of the standing committee during the public participation segment. So, anybody that wants to come to City Hall, we're going to organize carpools, because there's people that don't have a bus anymore. And we'll get people downtown to the city. We'll use the Beaver Bank Community to Watch page, and we'll use the Beaver Bank Transit page. So people that need rides, people that can offer rides, we'll figure it out. Because again, we just need people there to let them know it's not okay. We have all their contact information to do so. Sorry, we're running up at 7:46. So the community effects, we need people to attend meetings and speak to get the bus back. Metro Transit is the qualified operator for the region. We can form a Beaver Bank Transit Committee. And as far as community transit, who will operate if we're to go that route? So, yeah, probably the first course of action, and what, I guess I should ask that question again, A, B, or C. You know, are we going to go to this meeting? Show of hands. It's good, and that's just so I have a rough idea, okay? For those of you that aren't going to the meeting, please, pen and paper, write your story. I will present it. I will bring your message to council. So, getting community transit, that's more of a action item, parking lot kind of discussion, because there's grants, there's funding, there's operators, there's people to organize, it's a whole thing. And we're not going to get that done before next week. So, so yeah, for people that would like to speak, Ivy Meadows Continuing Care, why are we trying to get that service back to North Beaver Bank? Because that is a community. It was a community that was on the former Canadian Air Force's radar military base site. It is the largest employer in Beaver Bank, has 100 staff, that includes casuals. There are 51 tax-paying residents. The government tends to take about 85% and leave them with 15%. So they are living on fixed incomes. There's no new excessive bus applicants that can apply. The previous users are grandfathered. That's what I'm told. So I went up to Ivy Meadows last night. The scouts were up there. They were singing Christmas carols with the residents. It was beautiful. And I got to talk with people. And I heard the story of the husband that comes to visit his wife from Dartmouth. He takes 3 buses to go visit his wife up at Ivy Meadows. Because he doesn't probably feel comfortable driving, because emotionally going to see his wife in a nursing home is probably enough that he doesn't want to worry about driving. So these are the kinds of stories that I want to hear, that we can bring forth to council. Because again, I think it's a lot of making decisions with heads and not hearts. What is it? Square peg, round hole? Yeah, those figures of speech. Trying to get these things to work. So. Microphone's open.
Thanks so much. My name is Ken Wilson. I'm the president of the Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 508. We represent all the Halifax Transit operators, mechanics, ferry workers, and coin room staff. I feel bad for you guys. I've driven a bus for 20 years for Halifax Transit. I've driven in this community. I've taken some of your kids to school. I've driven a bus to Woodbine Trailer Park and came in 2011 when Council Gunricker was going to cut the service and help fight to keep it for the last 8 years. I'm concerned. We were, as ATU 508, the first to come out against the Moving Forward Together plan for a multitude of reasons. The most important is because we get what we have today. We have an urban transit system, not a regional transit system. That's the problem. We can go to any transit map that Metro Transit puts out, there's a boundary or a circle, as Lyle said. And all the service, all the taxpayers' money is going to focus on that. It's starting already. We've seen it. In the first phase of the Moving Forward plan, Temporary lost service, other outreaching areas in Clayton Park area lost service, while they focused everything in the urban core. It's your guys' turn. Now you lost service. The Porter's Lake service that you talked about, which is kind of mind-boggling, they still have it, we don't. We're being told that the Moving Forward plan for Dartmouth will start in August of 2020. I suspect that they will lose their service there too. And I've driven that bus as well. So, a couple questions or a couple concerns that I have is that I have a document in my possession in my office that was from Regional Council in 1996, just after amalgamation, so post-amalgamation, that they talked about how to fund community transit. And they talked about the fact that rural community transit does not have the same service standards as urban transit. Less people live there, they're bigger communities. Makes common sense. So they came up with a threshold of a 40% fare box recovery, which sounds reasonable. When I started driving a bus in 1999, we had a 71% fare box recovery for the whole system. We are now down below 40% for the whole system. I know when Sambro lost their bus service, and then in the first phase of the Moving Forward plan, that the residents in Sambro were paying $300,000 in property tax for the bus, without one nickel going in that fare box. I suspect you guys are paying similar. I'm astonished that in 2019, people live in a community that have an amenity, a service, a public service, and they lose it because of a ridership number. Keep in mind that Halifax Transit gives out more free passes than ever before. If you're under 12, you ride for free as a pilot project. Affects the fare box recovery. Remember, we were at 70 20 years ago. Why are we at 40? Because we give out free bus passes. Anytime there's a busker event, a tattoo event, all those volunteers, the women's World Junior Hockey event, those volunteers will get a free bus pass. Then you bring in the link service, like they did in 2005. And because people only ride the bus for one trip and don't get on and off, then that reduces your fare box recovery as well. So there's a multitude of reasons why the fare box goes down. But you know what, I often scratch my head and I wonder why we don't lose fire departments when there's no fires in the community for 6 months or a year. Why we don't lose police service when no one gets murdered, raped, broken into, or anything else. Why has the bus got to generate a revenue? So the pilot project, from age 0 to 12, you ride for free. Coupled with the low income bus pass, that if you're below poverty, which is a fantastic idea to give someone a bus pass to commute, but that won't help Beaver Bank. They can get on with living children for free. Now, HRCE, Halifax Regional School Board, just signed a contract with Halifax Transit that anybody that's in school has a little sticker on their student ID. They ride the bus for free from September 4th to June 30th, again affecting fare box recovery. I said in the radio a couple weeks ago that transit used to have advisory committees. SACO had one of the best transit advisory committees. And they were active and they were proactive for their residents. And it wasn't just Lower Sackville, it was all of Sackville and Beaver Bank and surrounding areas. Those died. They died of slow death. And it's time we look at bringing them back. So when you have a community meeting, people hear it, they drive by, they see the signs. When this moving forward plan came out, there's 195 pages, whatever it is, it's a bunch of, you know what? Who's going to pay attention to that? It's, you know, we can all prove it in a Facebook post. You read the first paragraph, you get bored, you swipe to the next one. Right? So unless it's really going to affect you that time, at that moment, you get the taste in your mouth, you're not going to make a move like you guys are doing today. So I applaud you, Lyle, for your commitment to your community, and for all you people coming out here tonight. This is exactly what needs to happen. And I got to say it. You demand what this city council does. They don't demand what you do. And if you put enough pressure on Lisa Blackburn, who supports this, I talked to her this summer. I literally drove my own car out here to go past here to go to the ball field because why are we turning around the community center by our fire station? It makes no sense. And for 700 meters, they said no because the bus doesn't turn in gravel. You're built in 15, the bus hasn't turned on gravel for years.
Seeing the poor operators try and figure out how they're going to get in and around in a narrow parking lot. You know, I said we were supposed to have the bus service for another 6 months, but the software jumped ahead. But when did I post that? It was after November 25th when the guy in the truck was there. You're trying to install the gate. We have a volunteer fire department that trains here on Tuesdays, a committed group of volunteers that risk their asses for us. And we got a bus trying to turn around in it with improper infrastructure. They trained till 10 o'clock. What did they do? Released a tweet, again online, that the bus will be turning around at the ball fields until 8. Trained till 10. Again, that one's not really with your heads at all, and certainly not with your hearts. So there's major gaps as to what's going on.
And just the other point, Lyle, that
Go ahead.
I seen your slide of the Sessabus being grandfathered in, and I'm a little perplexed by that. I'm going to go back and look at that.
Yeah, that'd be an action item, excessive bus time, that is.
Because the Sessabus runs off of the transit boundary. So once you lose a bus, the Sessabus can only go a kilometer past where the bus
They allow
stops.
the excessive bus. I think I read that they were going to allow the continuation of the excessive bus.
Yeah.
To the
That's like a
people
next
that-
step.
So there's little amendments, there's little things, that they're kind of
Based on the grant.
fixing up as they go to clean up as well.
So Lyle, I'll share that document with you that I have. So
Thank
you
you.
can have it for your presentation, just so you have all the facts from the.
There's also another document, back when we had the Beaver Bank bullet. It was a chartered service, and David Merrigan would not give up that charter unless there was an agreement to run to the villa by Metro Transit.
Correct.
Thank you for bringing that forward. Where's that agreement? What does it say? Action item. All right.
That's all I got. Good luck, guys. I'll be at council next week with you guys. Also, I'll make myself available to show up and lend support any way we can. Keep us in mind. You have my contact information.
Thank you so very much. Please. Anybody else, please, from the mic.
Elmer Grove, well, right now with Beaver Bank Business Association, but just going over the numbers briefly that came up. I was kind of curious when it was talking about, you said mark that number down, 6632 per
Yes.
day, worked out to 553 per person per day. If it's 2 trips a day, it's 276 a person per day. Meaning they cut it based on the fact that it was $26 or 26 cents more than the current fare.
No, current fare is $2.75.
275? Oh, sorry, 1 cent more than the current fare. The option 2, I understand why they would reject that, because it basically kept the 400 service, saying that there is no service between 11 and 2,
Yeah.
and after 10 in the evening. I know my boys all had the same problem. They couldn't take the buses to work or home from their jobs. So I did a lot of traveling myself to go down, pick them up in Sackville or at Sobeys Express so that they can get home.
Yes.
Because there was no bus service. So I understand why option 2 really wasn't a good fit. But option 4, where they're saying 145 per day, that actually works out to $6 per trip going from Kinsac to the villa. Now I'm curious how in option 1, they're saying it's $276, and in option 4, they're saying it's $6. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I'm okay with math, but this here isn't jiving with the figures.
Yeah.
So those were a few of the things that jumped out right at me. The other thing is very important, I think, that should go also on the action item, finding out what other bus routes are turning around on gravel. Because which ones are turning around on gravel should be included in your report to them, saying, look, if you're saying you can't turn around on gravel, why not? Because you're doing it here, 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 here. So if you're not going to do it here, you shouldn't be doing it anywhere.
School buses do it, right?
Yeah, but they're stock transit, they're not municipal. Anyways, that was my quick thoughts.
Thank you, Elmer.
Ashley Lively.
Thank you, Ashley. Ashley Live.
So if I can't make it to the Thursday meeting, I would really appreciate if somebody can bring it forward to me and to them and make me understand why we can't have one bus go all the way through when we had the 400 go through. And now all of a sudden we're going to take that 400, but we're going to give you 2 buses. Where's the math in that?
Right.
Why does that not make sense to me?
So the 86 and the 186 Express, I guess they chase each other down the Beaver Bank Road now.
Yep.
You can guarantee I'm going to be getting on the bus and taking the rides because I've run out of time with the storm that happened Thursday and taking care of things and such. That organizing this, I haven't gotten on the bus. So yeah, I encourage people to pay your fare.
$275.
$275. It's the service that you're paying for. You're supplementing with your taxes. Also, they are making a change for our taxes. If you are no longer a kilometer within a bus route, you are saving yourself this tax year $184.
That's it?
I pay more than that for transit.
So do I. Really?
Yeah. So that's what they're doing. That's the, you don't get the bus anymore. So we know what the sidewalk conditions are like from here, from the community center down to the ball fields and beyond. There are none. We have a community park. We have several projects on the go in the community that need to happen. But we also have a gentleman stopped by because we had meetings about the expansion of the quarries up in East Uniacke. He sat and he observed for 3 hours 98 trucks in a 3-hour time frame. 98 quarry trucks. I'm not just talking dump trucks. I'm talking the big ones, the big tandems. And my father and I, we even saw one of the ones that have the extra axle on the back, which actually replaces the road train, the ones that have the truck with the trailer and the trailer. We got big trucks cruising down there. So you want to talk about increasing ridership? On a winter day with wind chill, you're going to stand on the shoulder of a road with a truck getting momentum for a hill, doing 70,
90. Right.
80 at least,
90.
whipping up the hill with salt and dirt and dust, and you're going to stand there with your child and say, hey, Let's go for a trip on the bus. There's infrastructure that needs to take place. We're an expanding community. We're suburban to rural in nature. We're growing. These are part of the growing pains. But Aerotech, the Wellington Connector, no matter what anyone calls it, that's Murchison Drive. There will be a ring road sometime in the next 50 years that will go from Aerotech down to Wellington, between Grand Lake and Kinsac Lake, north of Beaver Bank Lake to the Scout Camp Road. From the Scout Camp Road down to the roundabout in Middle Sackville. That's Murchison Drive. That is a ring road. It will eventually be developed. This will be another meeting. Don't worry. But that Wellington Connector, we gotta get those trucks off the Beaver Bank Road. Somebody's gonna get killed. I welcome everybody to finish off the cookies. Marie from the Fedoris Lake House, she baked and decorated today and helped set out the tea and coffee. Please come approach, chat, gather. I'm gonna be leaving here by 8:30 if people want to stack chairs and do those things. So thank you very much.
The idea with the moving forward together plan, I get it, this linear transportation routes and things like that. I understand that, but not everybody is leaving their $300,000 or $400,000 home, walking by their car, and getting on a bus and commuting downtown. We have people that travel within the community, that rely on it for their groceries, to go for services. They got to get over to Cobequid. They have to go visit their family members. They have to do things. They have to get around within their communities as well. And that's part of the big problem of why we need to continue the service. It can't just fall off. So my hope is that by engaging the community, we'll be able to do this together. And a little faith, I believe we can probably make some changes to make sure that we keep that service back. So that way those 51 residents, those 100 employees, the largest employer in Beaver Bank, they still get their bus service. They have a way of living. And not only that, I might end up at Ivy Meadows at some point in time. Beaver Bank may grow by then. But right now, people need it. It's a need. It's a service that they need. I know this isn't the first community meeting that we'll have. I know the meeting on December 12th at Community Council won't be the only meeting that we'll have to attend as a community. We're going to have to keep the pressure on. We're going to have to ask for change. We are the taxpayers, and Community Council, City Council, the Transit Standing Committees, they're employed by us. And this is our ask. This is what we're asking of them. And we want to increase ridership, and we appreciate that service has improved below Kinsac, South Beaver Bank. But it's not going to North Beaver Bank. South, North, we're Beaver Bank. We need a bus. We need it for all of us. We don't need to be separate.